What's your favorite idea? Mine is being creative. You heard it right, my friends. The Scribbled Ideas mode has entered Identity 5. It is one of the greatest modes to have ever entered the game. In fact, it is so great that it has given me an echoey voice, which will persist for random points in this video. The mode you see on screen is the 4 hunters versus 1 survivor game mode, which has been made by a member of this community. This rendition of Survivor has to pop 3 ciphers really fast, while the hunters chase him with no abilities. This lone survivor of the 4v1 mode can also take more hits than usual. This is, indubitably, an incredible twist on the traditional 4v1 game mode that Identity 5 tends to offer. And this creative endeavor was made by a fellow member of your community. Today's video is about creativity, where the C stands for Confused Paintings from Abroad. And first off, we can point out the personification of these paintings, as a painting is normally very clear-minded and unlikely to be confused about anything. However, something that should be noted is that a painting that is confused is considered the end times for the description given in the previous sentence. It is no longer a true statement if the painting is actually confused. And in our expanding of the letter C, we have uncovered the truth. The end of non-confused paintings. The end of paintings as we know it. And if we assume that the character known as Painter, barring that he hardly knows of any particular female individual to paint, has also ended in the same vein, being associated with this creation, the painting, we have 2 associated figures that have ended, painting and painter. And if we take the ends of both those words, ing and and rearrange the letters, we get the country of Niger, which just so happens to be the historical birthplace of the first creative individual to ever exist, who we simply remember as Bob, for we do not have any records of his actual name. The year that Bob was born in corresponds to 1430 to a middle-class family in Niger. One super duper cool trick I have developed recently in order to remember the year he was born is to look at the number of the year 1430 and associate it with another creative mode that has released as a result of Scribbled Ideas, the mode we're playing right now, 4v1 Hunter. Therefore, we can use the 4v1 Hunter 4 and the year 1430 and associate them together to remember more, using the memory technique of multiple things associated together to the same thing. Of course, one can simply record it using a pencil utensil, but where's the fun in that? Throughout Bob's early years, he received much training in the art of swordplay from a mysterious man simply known as the Lawbringer. At the age of 14, he had become quite popular in his local region and was selected to be sent east to the tribal despotism of Air to serve its sultan. When Bob arrived to the tribal despotism of Air, in the citadel of where the sultan sat on his relatively common chair, he was almost immediately given a mission. You see, the Sultan of Air pondered about the mysterious lands to the west. He heard that the land carried an atmosphere unlike any other, one that one could not walk, but must wave his arms in front of themselves while moving the legs up and down, and also lying on the ground in order to simply move. This Sultan, who was unhinged by the tradition of Air, of non-exploration, wanted to listen to his story firsthand about this bountiful land of mystery, and sent Bob in order to discover it and map out the region. For context, this is the map of what Air knew about in the year 1444, the year that this took place. With the assistance of his trusty camel named Jeff, Bob, with an unwavering resolve, braved the heart of the Sahara Desert. After many months, having faced many tribulations on his journey, he triumphed and rose over a hilltop to see the mythical land which was told by the Sultan. He asked a local random villager next to him what was the strange blue substance that covered this land. The villager responded plainly, water. Bob then remembered the word as watier, as he had read that from the villager's lips. He did not actually listen to the villager. Bob then walked towards this watier and stuck his hand in it, noticing that his hand went through the ground, rather than staying on top of it, like ground should normally do. It was at this point the villager, convinced that Bob was a madman, and hit him on the head with a shovel to bring to his elder. After many seconds and no tribulations, the villager brought Bob before the village elder he resided at. When the villager recounted to the elder about the experiences he had with Bob, the village elder chuckled and told the villager that there existed a time where their village knew not of water's existence as well. The villager had the audacity to oppose the elder's wisdom and say that it's impossible to survive without water. Again, The elder chortled and knew that Bob's short-sightedness came from his generation, which was blessed with access to water. Back in his day, he had to squeeze the juices out of the sand in order to acquire nourishment. The mortality rate of waterless civilizations is much higher than those with it, and the village elder was glad that Bob could now give water to his people. The random villager thought the elder was senile and stupid, and challenged him to an Identity 1 face-off at 3 p.m. the next day. The village elder agreed, and said that he would prove that he still had it in him, and that he was telling the truth after all. Fun fact, the person that treated Bob's wounds was the real-life Emily Dyer, who would go on to be a character in future Identity games. Bob slept that night dreaming of pickled herrings and washing machines, things that you always dream about when something's about to go down the next day. Bob arose from his slumber and got ready for the day. He walked out of his door and found the villager standing there. The random villager, that is, not any other type of villager. The random villager then apologized for what he did the day before, and told him that now is the time for unity and not war. Bob would buy the random villager's apology for 6,500 of, quote, any currency that has the most purchasing power at any given time. Bob would then go to the morning feast at the middle of the village. Bob enjoyed himself at the feast, enjoying many exotic drinks such as a glass of water. Both the random villager and the old elder were at the feast, and both stared at each other sternly. Hey, why is it nighttime? Bob learned how to swim from the locals nearby. He now understood why his sultan described the place in such a way. The action he was describing was in fact swimming. Since Bob knew that this Identity 1 game would likely result in death, he went to each of the two contestants to tell them what did they have to say to the world before they go. Potentially. The random villager said that he will die in a world bequeathed by water, whereas the elder said that he will die in a world bequeathed by sand juice, then water. Turns out the people at this village do daylight savings at a weird time, and just so happened to be the day that the time skips by 1 hour, and now it was time for the duel. The elder arrived with Magnet Man, Cat Girl, no mouth and no legs, while the random villager arrived with Trapezoid Arrow Man, Flight Control Man, Tennis Player, and Itsy Bitsy Spider. This would be a best of one, played on the map Leg Factory. Whoever got more kills would win. First up, it was the elder versus the random villagers squadron. Notice how back then a lot of the perks were different. Notice that the spawn locations are also different. These were in fact normal spawns at the time. While the elder might have gotten early game rotated, he was able to get a relatively okay down against the air traffic control man. Then he did something unprecedented and tried to intercept the rescue before they can even come across the map. This caused the entire team to go into disarray and allowing for an easy 4K at 3 ciphers. That means, in order to stay alive, the random villager had to 4K himself. It was really 4K or no K, or perhaps rather 4K or IK. The random villager chose some unusual perks in order to counteract the normal way of playing the game, which is to expect a certain build coming from the enemy team. His strategy was to rush the cripple and then hope that would cause disarray within the enemy team, allowing for instantaneous 4K at 3 ciphers, just like the elder. And while he was successful in the beginning, the combined support from the two nearest survivors forced him to switch targets, causing all the cipher machines to be completed. However, he had an ace up his sleeve, the teleport trait, which allowed him to teleport across the map and get 4K immediately. In case you didn't know, teleport was not a common trait brought at this time, as it was seen as too situational, but the survivors played into his trap, causing the situation to occur. By rules of the duel, it was now a draw, and the elder accepted that he won't be able to teach the youth anymore. The random villager then said that there was another elder that believed that everyone had water and that no one squeezed juices from the sand, named Joe. The elder then asked who Joe was, and the random villager slowly morphed into the troll face. The troll face destroyed everything in its wake, launching water from the ocean all over the place. Bob was able to retreat into the nearby shack where he saw a bucket of oil on the counter. Since oil floats on water, he could use the oil to fly and take out the troll face with his sword. With one lunge from his sword, he was able to strike it directly into the troll face, destroying it once and for all. Due to his creative solution, Bob would become the savior of the village and became the bulwark of the troll face to not destroy another location. As you can see from the story, creativity can save lives. That's why I advocate for the Scribbled Ideas mode to be used as much as possible. Think of millions of lives can be saved by using the Scribbled Ideas mode to create 4v1 Hunter, or the small room map I made, where there's just 8 survivors in one location, or this map, the Squid Game map. I hope that I have given you greater knowledge of the world around you. Now please, unleash your creativity. Create infinite maps. Save infinite people. Create infinite people. Take over the world with infinite people. Create infinite energy with infinite people. Create utopia.